It was an ordinary Monday morning. The sun was shining brightly through the window, and the world outside was already moving at a fast pace. Cars honked, people rushed to their offices, and everywhere you could hear the sounds of the busy city. But among all the hustle, there was one person who wasn't rushing. Emma. Emma had always been different from the others. While most people rushed through their tasks, checking off their to-do lists, Emma had this quiet way of living. She loved to savor the little moments, the sound of birds in the morning, the warmth of the sun, the rustling of leaves in the trees. She worked at a small bookstore in the heart of the city, one of those cozy, hidden spots that only a few people knew about. To Emma, it was the perfect place. But lately, something inside her was beginning to stir. She had been feeling a sense of restlessness. For weeks now, she felt like something was missing. It wasn't that she disliked her life. She loved her work, the peace of the bookstore, and the routine. But there was this feeling that she wasn't really living. Emma had spent so many years just going through the motions. Work, home, repeat. No new adventures, no excitement, just the same old patterns. Sometimes, she felt like time was slipping away and she wasn't even noticing it. One afternoon, as she was cleaning the shelves, Emma noticed something unusual. An old pocket watch tucked behind a pile of dusty books. She wasn't sure why, but it immediately caught her attention. The watch wasn't fancy. It wasn't a modern one either. It looked old and worn out, with a brass finish that had faded over the years. But when she flipped it over, something strange caught her eye. There was an engraving on the back. "Time is the only gift that can't be bought." Emma paused, staring at the engraving. Something about those words felt like they were meant just for her. She had always heard that time was precious, but this was different. The words made her feel as if the watch itself was trying to tell her something important. She placed it on the counter and decided to think about it later, but the message stayed with her. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She kept turning over the words in her mind. Time is the only gift that can't be bought. She thought about how many people, including herself, spent so much time chasing after things. Money, success, validation, things that could be bought. But time was different. No matter how much money you had, you couldn't buy more time. And yet most people didn't seem to value it. They spent their time rushing, working nonstop, always looking for the next thing, the next goal. The more Emma thought about it, the more she realized how much she had been taking time for granted. She spent her days in the bookstore, serving customers, doing her job, but she never truly lived. She realized that she had been so focused on surviving the day-to-day that she had forgotten to actually experience her life. The next morning, Emma woke up with a new sense of clarity. She decided to change things, even if just for one day. Instead of following the usual routine of rushing through her morning, she would take her time. She would notice the little things. She would live in the moment, not in the past or future. As she walked to work that morning, Emma felt a shift inside her. She walked slower, appreciating the beauty of the trees lining the street, the laughter of children playing in a nearby park, the way the morning sunlight filtered through the buildings. She had never noticed these things before. It was as if the world was moving at a different pace now. When she arrived at the bookstore, Emma decided to slow down even more. She took her time with each customer, asking them about their day, listening to their stories. It wasn't just about selling books anymore. It was about connecting with people, making them feel heard and understood. Emma felt something inside her begin to change. The more she focused on the present moment, the more she realized how much she had been missing before. Later that afternoon, an elderly man walked into the shop. He was tall, with white hair and a kind, weathered face. He approached Emma slowly, as though every step was measured. There was something about him that felt peaceful. "Excuse me, miss," the old man said with a gentle voice. "Do you have any books on time management, or perhaps something deeper about the nature of time?" Emma smiled and led him to a section of philosophy and self-help books. "I'm not sure if it's exactly what you're looking for, but these might help," she said, pulling out a few titles. The old man took a moment to look at the books, then turned back to Emma. "You know, time is a funny thing," he said, his eyes twinkling. We all have the same 24 hours, but some of us spend it chasing things, while others spend it enjoying life. Time, in the end, is the only thing that is truly ours to give. Emma felt a lump form in her throat. His words were simple, yet so powerful. She realized that this was the message she needed to hear. "Remember, my dear," the man continued, "the most precious gift you can give someone is your time. Never forget that." After the old man left, Emma couldn't stop thinking about what he had said. She had always given her time to work, to others, but never truly to herself. She had been so caught up in doing that she had forgotten the beauty of being. That evening, as Emma sat alone in her apartment, the pocket watch resting beside her, she realized that her life didn't have to be a race. It didn't have to be about chasing success or ticking off a never-ending to-do list. It could be about the moments, the small, quiet moments that made life worth living. She didn't need more hours in the day. What she needed was to stop rushing through them. As she sat by the window, watching the stars come out one by one, Emma made a decision. From now on, she would value her time, not by how much she had, but by how she spent it. Whether it was reading a book, having a conversation, or simply enjoying a cup of tea, she would savor each moment, as if it were a precious gift.